I'm Katie Wells, host of the Maximized Minimalist podcast. I escaped the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood, overwhelmed by clutter and buried under the mental load. Now I live in a home that feels calm, manageable, and made for real life. I have margin in my days, energy for who matters most, and time for slow mornings and silly dance parties in the kitchen with my family. With over 5 million listens, the show has helped women around the world turn their homes into their happy place. Around here, we simplify for more peace, more presence, and more joy. We choose grace over guilt and progress over perfection. And we believe your home should give back more than it takes. I'm here to help you do the same. Come along with me and my guests as we share the real stories, habits, and strategies that help you lighten the load from the inside out. Pull up a seat, friend, and let's do this together. Ready, set, simplify. So a year ago this week, I stood at the riverbanks in Asheville, North Carolina, where my family and I have lived for close to 15 years, and we were just frozen in disbelief. The water was wild and raging. I mean, brown, rushing, violent, nearly 30 feet higher than normal. And this part of town where I'd spent so many weekends eating, shopping, just walking around with my family was now completely under a raging river. And I watched helplessly as people's cars, the contents of their home were swept away. Many of it buried, still buried under the muddy current. I watched semi-trucks bobbing along like toy trucks before slamming into buildings and power lines. So it's been a year since Hurricane Helene here in North Carolina, and I haven't really talked much about it because honestly, it's just too raw for so long, but I really think it's time. So today I want to fill you in on just what these past 12 months have looked like, how our community is doing now, I think what's shifted in me, and the powerful lessons the storm reinforced or taught me about possessions, simplicity, and just our homes. My hope is that as I share this, you'll hear something that just helps you breathe a little easier and exhale. Because what I saw when I watched the content of so many people's homes, entire homes, going down this river, it wasn't just furniture or boxes. I saw a couch where a mom probably curled up with her baby at night. I saw boxes of books a teenager once used to escape into other worlds. I saw wedding albums, school projects, heirlooms, each one carrying a whole story. And these weren't just things, right? They were identities, anchors, evidence of a life lived. And I'm so glad I have waterproof mascara on. I'll be lucky if I can get through this without tears coming. And this is where it hit me. And this is what I've been saying all along. Decluttering has never just been about tossing items into a bin and just feeling proud of the empty space. Yes, that's like 5% of it, right? At the end of the day, it's the humanness of it all, the meaning we attach, the memories we try to protect, the identities we hold on to through our stuff. That's why it feels so heavy sometimes, friend. Like you're not just sorting through clutter, you're sorting through part of your story. And you don't need to live through a hurricane to know that feeling. Like you know it when you flip through concert ticket stubs from your 20s, or when you run a hand over that bookshelf that you bought for your very first apartment, and suddenly it's like you're transported back into that season of life. You know it when you tuck away the stroller, even though no one's riding in it anymore, or when you fold the superhero pajamas one last time before, they get donated. You know it when you walk past the piano that hasn't been played since your kids left the house, or when you pull out holiday decorations that used to fill a bustling house. This is why my approach has never been just like one size fits all rules. If you haven't worn it in 6 months, toss it. Instead, we have to honor the humanness and the stories first, because when we see the story more clearly, that is when we can finally make space for what matters most, right? As they say. And in the days and hours following the hurricane, right, we had no power. All communication was cut. No power, no electricity, no water. I guess it's the same thing. No cell service, nothing. Yet I felt so privileged to be safe and still have a roof over our heads. And I will be honest, as many people who've been through a natural disaster, maybe maybe this is more normal than I think, but I went into a deep depressive state like never before. Like I kept telling myself, Katie, like, why are you depressed? You have so much to be grateful for. Snap out of it. And I was grateful, but there was still this ache I couldn't shake. And because our home had no running water, our entire water system here was destroyed. After about a week of no shower, no running water, like it's hard to cook, clean, you can't do laundry, any of that, right? Normal becomes like not possible. We decided to pack up and move in with my parents in Iowa to regroup, right? And the very next day in Iowa, my parents are like, hey, Katie, let's get out of the house. Let's feel normal again. Let's go to Costco. And I'll never forget that moment when I walked into Costco with them. And it still makes me cry. I burst into tears and I just physically collapsed. I was sobbing uncontrollably and it hit out of nowhere, like right in the middle of Costco of all places. But in that moment, it didn't feel like Costco. It felt like I was on another planet because the people around were just living their normal lives. They were filling carts, they were getting gas, they were grabbing snacks, checking things off lists, all things I would have been doing on a, normal Tuesday afternoon in Asheville pre-hurricane, right? And meanwhile, in my community back home, everything had been flipped upside down. Roads were destroyed. My kids' school completely destroyed. Gas nearly impossible to get. Communication, everything was destroyed. And Costco wasn't just an errand anymore. It was like unthinkable. And it felt like such a luxury, and the contrast of that, it broke me. And that was the moment. Thankfully, I've had enough therapy in my life. This was the moment where I finally understood gratitude and grief. They're not opposites, and they can sit, and they often do, in the same room. I was so grateful to be safe with my family, and I was grieving the loss of normalcy and aching for communities and my neighbors still in the thick of it. Both were true, both belonged. And maybe you felt that too, not with a hurricane, but in your own way, like being thankful for the season you're in, but also grieving what had to change to get there, or letting go of an item, like it's the right decision, but it still might sting. That's normal. And the storm also clarified something else for me. What we lose in a crisis isn't only the stuff, it's the places where life happened. It's the kitchen table where birthdays were celebrated. It's the couch where bedtime stories were read. It's the front porch where you waved to your neighbors or had one of those late night heart-to-hearts with your partner or your kid. When those things are swept away, the grief is so much bigger than the item itself. But here's the truth I've had to hold on to. And I've always known, right? We are still more than our things. Our stuff holds meaning, but it doesn't define us. And when we can start to gently untangle ourselves from that belief that our identity is tied to what we own, that's when we can begin to live lighter. And maybe that's the hardest part of all in this conversation and just in everything we do as simplifiers. Our stuff carries like dual meaning. On one side of the coin, it's precious. It's where the memories live, where identity takes shape, where the story of our lives gets told. That's why letting go can feel like ripping out pages of a book we don't want to lose. But on the other side, that same stuff can weigh us down. The very objects that once brought joy or maybe comfort can start to crowd out peace. And they can hold us hostage to this past season, even when our lives are asking and pleading with us to step forward. I think this duality is why decluttering is never, again, just about getting rid of stuff. And friend, if you've ever struggled because you can't follow a checklist that some expert said, follow this 5-step checklist and you'll be clutter-free forever. Like, it doesn't work that way. This is why it stirs up tears, guilt, sometimes laughter, because our belongings are both the evidence of where we've been and the gatekeepers of where we're going. And the work of simplifying isn't about choosing one side of the coin. It's about holding both truths, grief and gratitude, right? and honoring the meaning while also creating space for what's next. When we finally came back home 2 months later, we got running water restored, and I'll never forget turning on my faucet and water coming out of the tap again. I was so excited, you guys. I was like a kid in a candy store. I was giddy to hear that whoosh and like see the stream pouring into the sink. Because for the first time in months, running water and being back in my home with my things and my kitties and my family, it was like the biggest luxury in the world. And it reminded me, simplicity is a gift we can choose before it's chosen for us. Most of us don't lose water for weeks on end, but we do live in, you can call it a slow storm of too much. Too much stuff, too many decisions, too many responsibilities, too much noise, too much distraction. And while the hurricane stripped things away in an instant, most of us have the opportunity to strip away little by little with intention and with purpose so that we can live with more gratitude, presence, peace. So yeah, I haven't really talked about this until now because, I mean, if you could see my face right now, but I knew it was time. And I'll say 1 year later, Asheville and the surrounding areas, because it wasn't just Asheville that got hit, but you know, this is where I live. We still have our scars. I still have my own scars from this. Some businesses never reopened. Some families are still rebuilding, but all right, that's part of the silver lining. And that you see so much resilience and you see people come together. And I think you're reminded like humans are actually really, really good. When if you watch the news for a day straight, you're like, oh gosh, you know, I've seen neighbors rally, communities rise back up, and a new kind of strength emerge. And that's a really beautiful silver lining. And here's what I want to take with you. If you've ever felt like you should just be grateful, but there's still an ache, it just means you're alive to what matters. And if you've ever cried over an old baby blanket or a couch that held 1,000 family memories, it makes sense. Those things carried part of your story. If you've ever looked around at clutter and wonder why it feels so heavy, it's because it carries more than just dust. It carries meaning and sometimes even loss. This is why I'll never tell you decluttering. Just toss it into a bin. You have to tend to your story. And when you do that, you make room for what you need in this life. And you don't need a hurricane to know that. You already know. So this invitation is this: honor the weight, release what no longer serves you, and keep what anchors you to love and connection. And my hope is that me sharing this doesn't just leave you thinking about hurricanes. I hope it helps you think differently about the everyday choices you make in your home, in your life, all the things, and the things that you hold on to, and maybe the things you're just ready to let go of. And maybe, just maybe, let today be the day you breathe a little bit deeper in your home, maybe see it with a fresh pair of eyes. And, I do want to say to those who did reach out, I literally got thousands of messages on Instagram after that for anyone who knew I lived here. It was so touching. So if you reached out, if you prayed, if you donated to, the dozens of charities that were just helping our town immensely, thank you so much. Your kindness really helped carry us through. And again, that's a really beautiful thing to witness. So, all right, friend, I'll be back next week, tear-free. We're going to end on a happy note, and I can't wait to hang out with you again. In the meantime, you know what to do. Ready, set, simplify. Bye.